We're accumulating data points for how overtime is going to work now in this world of 2 guaranteed possessions, unless the team that gets the ball first takes the full 10 minutes and has a walk-off score. I wish that were explained more. And I know that it's not explained well enough because of the number of questions I get from readers and viewers. Anytime I start getting the same question over and over again, someone is failing to explain it. I think Chris Collinsworth mentioned it on Sunday night, that if Dallas took the full 10 minutes and scored, it's over. That needs to be on the graphic that they put up. And last night, Amazon put the graphic up and I looked at it. It wasn't there. And I love Al Michaels. No mention of it on the game broadcast. They need to mention for every game that goes to overtime because it's counterintuitive, and folks who aren't zealous fans of football look at that and say, wait a minute, they're telling me both teams are guaranteed a possession.
Exactly. Not clear. You're 100%, you're 100%
you can't say both teams are guaranteed a possession because they're not.
You're right. And if more people, you said you can tell that there's confusion based on the questions that you get. If more people knew that, if more people realized that, fans, media really kind of zeroed in on that point, we'd have more commentary about how unfair it is. Because you really go back to the original problem. Well, wait a minute. How is it fair that this team just happens to win the toss and they get the ball and then go down to score and the game is over? NFL makes us all think, hey, we fixed it. No problem. You get a score unless it's a turnover or they score or unless. But that big unless, that's a big one. Because can't you imagine somebody just saying, okay, we're a ground and pound team, pick up a few first downs. 10 minutes goes fast, especially when you're running the ball. How about we just take it all the way down and we clock it, or we just drain the clock and we win it that way, and they never get to touch the ball.
Somebody's
I think if that actually happened, Mike, there would be such an outcry. We'd talk about it for weeks. The NFL would have to address it, even though it's already on the books.
I had someone suggest this week that, and I don't think, I welcome all ideas because you never know where a good idea is going to come from, especially when the chances of it coming from my brain are fairly limited. So anytime anybody wants to suggest something to me, I'll at least consider it. It was a variation of the idea of the clock they use for chess, where instead of 10 minutes for overtime, each team gets 5 minutes. Now, it begins to fall apart because there's a situation where one team has exhausted its 5 minutes, the other team has the ball. Well, what happens if that team faces a fourth down and doesn't convert? The team that would take possession ran out of its 5 minutes. So I don't want something that's complicated. Last year, the kickoff rules were too complicated. There were too many yardage points where it goes to the 20 if this happens, the 35 if this happens, the 40 if this happens. And no, God, you're giving me a headache. It can't be complicated. But the simplest fix is just go back to 15 minutes. That's what would happen, Michael, if any team takes the full 10 minutes to score the touchdown or the field goal, and the other team doesn't get its guaranteed possession, the next step will be 15 minutes. They had that as part of the proposal this year. They know that 10 minutes are not enough. And even if you don't successfully use the full 10 minutes, what if you leave the other team with a minute to match a touchdown, 30 seconds to match a field goal, and they're playing for a tie? Like, we don't want more ties. That was the first thing I thought of after Sunday night. This 10 minutes is going to result in more ties, and nobody wants ties. Nobody. And I'm not going to repeat what Jerry Jones said after the tie when he was asked if it's like kissing his sister. If you want to find it, you can go find it.
I don't want to know.
I'll tell you during the break. It's not as bad. I'm not even sure. Not as bad as the other word that he keeps using over and over again. It's just weird.
Okay, I was going to say I'm not sure I want to know during the break because I've watched the excellent Cowboys documentary America's Team on Netflix. So I know what Jerry Jones is capable of saying. I think I have a better understanding of how his mind works after watching this. So I'm sure it was very weird. But in those 10 minutes, I understand what the league was thinking. I understand you've already played 60 minutes. This is not basketball. It's not even hockey to the degree. It's much more physical. It's much more violent than any other North American sport. So if we can reduce the time after 60, add another 10 instead of another 15, I understand that. And you can't just keep playing football forever. Have people falling all over the field. But 10 minutes is not enough.
That's a much more admirable explanation than why they did it. The reason they did it is far more cynical, Michael. It was 2016, and the debate over whether or not short week football makes sense was raging. And the NFL was doing everything it could to win that debate. And the Buccaneers and the Raiders played 73 minutes on a Sunday, and then the Bucs played the Falcons on a Thursday night, and they were shot. And that's when people like me said, you can't do Thursday night football because you could have other overtime games that go 15 minutes. So instead of scrapping the multi-billion-dollar revenue stream, they just shrunk overtime to 10 minutes. That's what it was all about. It was all an effort to win the battle of short week football. And now
not about player safety, huh?
Exclusively won. What the hell? Go back to 15 minutes. They don't care. Thursday night, Sunday night, Tuesday night, we'll play whenever we want to play. The injury rate's the same no matter what. Once they concocted that misleading statistic, they can play whenever they want.
Yeah, and here I am thinking that player safety was part of the reason it's 10 minutes instead of 15. But
no, it was get jerks like Florio to shut up about Thursday night football doesn't work. That's what it was about. But ultimately, you're right. I remember the debate.
We don't want to. Nobody wants to see ties. So I really can't jump on McVay and the Rams too much last night because they were not going for a tie. And I don't know what their reasons for not going for a tie. I don't know what those reasons were, but they clearly were playing for the win.
Well, you're going to tie, you're going to lose. Michael, you're going to tie, you're going to lose. How are you going to win that game? The only way you win that game is if the 49ers have a turnover on that drive. And they played clean most of the night, all night, right? I can't think of – there were a couple –
They didn't turn over. No.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Your mindset is we're playing 50 times at best. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, just agreeing with you. Like, no turnovers, which is surprising. Mac Jones throws the ball nearly 50 times and is playing hurt, and they still don't turn it over. So it was a pretty clean game for the Niners. But I think the Rams, if they pick up that first down, then that leaves everything on the table, as you said. You got Nakua, you've got Devontae Adams, you got Williams, you got a lot of options. Atwell has had two big catches 2 weeks in a row, so you got a lot of options. 4 downs, I think they felt confident. If they picked up that first down, they were going to win the game.
And Atwell made that huge catch on the overtime drive. The deep crosser, right? Was that the overtime drive or was it the end of the fourth?
That was it was overtime.
Yeah, and
it was overtime.
It was one of those games where it reminded me of Super Bowl 49 in this regard, because you feel like the momentum is building for one team to win. And then just in a moment, boom, they lost. Whether it's the Malcolm Butler interception or stopping Kyron Williams, like it's building, and then it's done. The air just went out of the balloon. The balloon exploded. It was over. So that was just a weird one. And like I was saying, I think at some level, Sean McVay would rather lose than tie, because how do you process a tie, especially a guy like McVay, who is so clear and direct and linear. And that's not a criticism. I think a lot of football coaches have to be that way. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. And where the hell does a tie take me? I don't know. The only thing a tie does is it makes tiebreakers easier to figure out, except when you tie a team in your own division, because you're still going to have a tiebreaker with them. But then it is easier to figure out because whoever wins the rematch They're the ones that hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. So, because you're 1-0-1 or 0-1-1 instead of 1-1 when we see teams in the same division split. But regardless, he didn't want the tie. I don't think he knew what he wanted. I really think that was the message based upon that whole sequence. I don't think Sean McVay knew what he wanted, and he probably felt like in that circumstance, and we've all been there, where we have a decision to make, multiple options available to us. You know what? Whatever I do here, it's going to be wrong.
Or whatever I do here, I like so many options. Whatever I do here will work out. I've got many options. I've got 3 or 4 good options, and it doesn't work. So then you start to say, well, wait, why didn't I go to my second option or my third option? But ultimately, if you look at Sean McVay, what he likes, what does he like? I mean, he likes a power running game. And there's a lot of creativity with the McVay offense, but it all works off of a running game that is reliable and credible, that opens up the play action and all the other stuff that he likes to do. So if I have to say in a gotta have it situation with Sean McVay, I think Robert Saleh and the defense, they were all over it. If he's in his gotta have it situation, on the 4th and 1, it's not going to be a pass. It's going to be a run.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.